Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you watch my channel, you know I do a lot of talks and discussions about professional tennis. That's all good and fun, but at some point we need to focus on ourselves. We need to focus on our own tennis and what can we do as players to improve our own results and improve our own experience. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about 4 things I wish I did differently back when I was playing more tennis. So a little bit of background about myself. I've been playing fairly serious tennis for most of my life. It's just up until recently, like last fall, where I became a full-time student at UC Davis, that I've been doing less tennis training and less competition. I'm focusing a little bit more on school and coaching now. But back when I was competing more seriously was junior year of high school through my 3 years of community college tennis. So for those 2 years in high school, I was also doing cross country at the same time, cross country in the fall. But for my 3 years of community college tennis, I was doing it year round. So training in the fall, competing in the spring, and playing tournaments in the summer. I wasn't like the best player in the world, but I was a decent player for sure. And I enjoyed competing, and I was trying to get better. But there's definitely some things I wish I could do. I do differently now. I changed my approach to tennis and training. So I'm gonna get into them in this video. The first thing I do differently is that I wouldn't worry so much about comparing my results and comparing my scores to other people. Back when I played tennis, I was like really like way too like paranoid and way too worried about what score someone was getting against one player, some player was getting against another player, what score some player was getting against another player, and how did my scores compare to these opponents that I was going to be facing. Was I doing better against mutual opponents than them? Was I doing worse against mutual opponents than them? Like, how did we compare in terms of our overall success and in terms of our results? I'd be very concerned if this player did worse against this player than I did, I'd be better than them. If this player did better against this player than I did, then they'd be better than me. And that would affect my confidence going into matches, both giving me a sense of overconfidence or a sense of underconfidence in a lot of ways if I feel like a player had a better record or a better history than me. I just like to say that's a really bad way to think. There are so many variables that affect the outcome of a tennis match. It can be anything from a let cord winner, a ball a half inch in, a ball a half inch out, a matchup, how someone was feeling the night before. Did they get a bad sleep, bad warm up, bad preparation? Did the other player have like good preparation? Was there like a bad line call? Like, and there's so many things that can affect especially the score of a match, but even the outcome of a match can be determined by very small things. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you're comparing just like your pure scores and your pure results in tennis to someone else's pure scores and pure results in tennis, and trying to compare who's the better player in that sense and who's going to win the matchup based on previous like histories and stuff. Every matchup is different. Every day is different. When you step out on the court with someone, you could play that same person 5 times. It would be a different score each time. A group of other players could play each other round robin a million times over. It would pretty much be a different score each time. My point in this being, you do not know what's going to happen going into a match, and you can't make assumptions about how good you are or how bad you are compared to your opponent based on histories. You just need to go into the match with your best mindset and your best tactics possible. The second thing I do differently is I wouldn't be so worried about score like during the match. Back when I competed in tournaments or matches, I'd be really emotionally stressed about the score in the game. Whether I was up 30-15, whether I was down 15-30, up 40-30, down 30-40, deuce, add in, add out, completely affected my mind, completely stressed me out. I was always worried about what would happen based on the given situation in the game. Like, if I was ahead in the game and let the opponent get like back in the game, like if I was up 40-15 and they got back to deuce, I'd be really mad at myself. If I was down, say 15-40, got all the way back to deuce, then lost a no-ad point, I'd be really mad at myself. I'd be like, you have no clutch, you have no anything, you can win all these points, but then when it really counts, like you're not able to produce and stuff. So I'd be very concerned about like, I guess like the dynamic of the match changing based on the score and not taking advantage of opportunities like throughout the game. And it would be even worse for me during set scores. On tennis is kind of interesting with the one player serving and the one player returning and changing over every odd games. When I play, I think multiple games ahead of myself about if I win this game or if I lose this game, what will the score be? What will the score be on the changeover? If I change over at this score and I do good in these next 2 games, what will the score be then? Or if I do bad before this changeover, then I change over and I do it bad again, what will the score be? And I just be running all these like hypothetical set scenarios in my head. Like, am I going to be down 2-3 or am I going to be up 3-2? Am I going to be up 4-1 or am I going to be down 4-1? Like all these like different things would play in my head. And yes, like the score can dramatically change in tennis, but like if you let that overwhelm you, if you let that consume you, you're going to be completely unable to like perform your best in tennis. If you're serving 2-all and you're worried about being down 2-3 on the changeover or up 3-2 on the changeover, yes, that may seem concerning, but that is not something you can afford to think about. And you certainly can't let the score of the set further along like affect your head. Whether you're up 5-3, down 5-3, up 5-2, you lose a lead, you come back. You just can't let the set score dictate your emotions and dictate your mindset going into the points. Yes, like the score is it messes with your mind and it seems really important, but scores change rapidly. There's a lot of momentum shifts. You never know when your time is coming, and you also never know when you're going to lose your momentum and lose your time. So again, kind of back to the first point, prioritize each point to the utmost and try to get just the most out of each point you play and not worry about what the outcome of the score is going to be. If you play the best tennis you can in each moment, the score will take care of itself. It's not always going to go your way, but that is out of your control. You just need to try to play your best for each point. The third thing I do differently, I focus more on my own side of the court. I think in some ways it's a good thing that I was so concerned about how to be a tough matchup for my opponent, how to play to their weaknesses, being aware of things they were good at, things they were bad at. But if it gets to the point where it's a distraction to you, that you're not able to play your best tennis because you're so caught up in how good the opponent is or how bad the opponent is that you're completely changing your game and changing the things you do well, that's when it becomes an issue, and that's when you don't really play your best tennis. Say, for example, your opponent is really consistent and they're not going to make errors, and you start pressing a ton and going for winners. That's not really your best tennis. Your level of play is going to drop and you're going to make errors. Or they're really good at the baseline and you try to like force yourself to come into the net on bad opportunities. Another example would be like you're playing a really aggressive opponent and they hit a lot of winners on you, and you completely change your neutral ball and the shots you're comfortable hitting. You try to play out of your mind and you diminish your own chances in that because you're trying to play at a level and a level of risk you're just not able to maintain. So yes, you do want to be aware of what are things my opponent does well, what are my opponents doing poorly, but you don't want to be too much worried about it because you don't really have any control of it. Whether your opponent's going to start playing good, whether your opponent's going to start playing bad, whether they're going to be happy, angry, upset, you just don't know what they're going to do. You don't know what they're going through, and you can't fully predict what shots they're going to make, what shots they're going to miss, and how well or how poorly they're going to play. What you need to do going into a match is you need to have a few clear, simple goals going into it. I learned this from Patrick Mouratoglou. I think he's one of the best coaches in the game right now. He's very clear that it's easy to get caught up in different strategies and intimidation or overconfidence by your opponent and just be like buried in like the immense possibility of what type of shots to play in points, what type of points to play. You need to go into a match with a few key things you have in your mind. Whether that's I want to hit my spots on my serve, I want to play forehands cross court and switch down the line, I want to work on my backhand cross, I want to come to the net on any short ball. You need to have a specific goal in your mind going into the match that you can base your game and base your performance off of. If you leave a match and all you can think about is how well the opponent played compared to you, or just the things the opponent was doing well and how you didn't react to it very well, and you never gave yourself the chance to play your best tennis, that's a disservice to yourself, and that's not going to help you improve. That's not going to help you learn. But if you do go into the match with clear intention, clear strategy, and simple points, that's not about whether you do or don't succeed. That's simply about the commitment and the effort to play a certain style or a certain like strategy or plays on the court, if you commit yourself that you are going to try those and you're going to try to play your best in each situation, it's a win in your book in the long run. Whether you win or lose the match, if you commit yourself to a strategy, it works or doesn't work, but you learn from it and you learn how you can get better. That's the best thing you can do, and it gives yourself the best chances to win the match. If you're so concerned about what the opponent does well or what the opponent does poorly, and you never give yourself the chance to play your best tennis and play your identity of tennis in the style you prefer, you don't bring the best version of yourself to the court. And then the fourth point I'd like to bring up is that you need to have specific goals in practice. You need to have specific concrete things and details you want to work on. I think we all know those players that they show up to practice, and maybe we're this player ourselves. I know I've been guilty of this a few times, or else I wouldn't be bringing it up in my video. But a lot of us, we go to team practices or we go to academies, and there's other players around us, our peers, that do this as well. And you can kind of tell when someone's just going through the motions. They're hitting just to hit. They see their coach saying, do this drill, do that drill, do this drill. And this is not a disservice to coaches. I'd say 90% of coaches are extremely good. And pretty much whether you're at expensive academy, poor or like cheap academy, really good team or club, really bad team or club, most coaches and most training centers are going to do pretty similar things. And they're going to like construct quality practices, but you can tell the players who are just doing the drill just to get through it, just mindly hitting away at the ball. And that gives yourself that like, yes, you get repetitions, but you don't get the most out of each repetition. And then you're going to find when you step up to the court in a match, once the pressure's on and the stakes are high, it's not just a game or a drill like it is in practice. You're not going to know yourself as a player. You're not going to be aware of what things you do well and what things you do poorly and what your like intentions are going into the match. So having an identity and a strategy and a few key characteristics that your game is based on, that's going to be extremely important to your success in tournaments and your success in longevity as a whole. Knowing what you do well, what you need to work on, what type of points are favorable to you. And you learn that in practice. And I believe you need to practice both your strengths and your weaknesses. Some players, they practice exclusively their strengths. And sometimes they do it without really being very aware of it. For example, a player with a really good serve, a really good forehand, maybe that's all they do and they don't do anything specific with it. I do agree it's important to practice your strengths, but have a purpose with it. Don't just think, I'm going to bomb first serves. Think, I'm going to bomb first serves, but at a certain percentage to a certain target. I'm going to look for this and ball, or this and this ball to attack with my forehand. If I get the ball in this position, I'm going to do this with my forehand. If I get the ball in this position, I'm going to do this with my forehand. And really be aware of the things you do well and the things you can do better on, because it's really important to work on both. Something I kind of believe, if a weakness can hold you back, a weakness can be a reason you lose the match, but a strength can really elevate you to the next level and can improve your results in tournaments as a whole. Think of players like Berrettini or Tsitsipas, for example, both like top 10 players, and neither of them have particularly good backhands. I'd probably say most players in the top 50 have better backhands than them. And rather than spending all their time working on their backhand, they spend a lot of time working on their strength. They know if they can hit a high first serve percentage and play a lot of forehands early in the rally, they have a great chance to win the point and a great chance to win the match. I think they have a good balance right now, and that's really important for players. I think for me, myself, I was maybe a little bit too focused on my weaknesses as a player. For example, I never felt like I had both a good forehand and both a good backhand. That's because whenever I felt good on one thing, I'd exclusively practice the other, or I wouldn't exclusively practice the other, but all my mental energy and mental attention would be spent working on my weakness, and I wouldn't worry about my strength because I think it's already good. So you need a balance of both. Like, you want your strengths to be better, and you want your weaknesses to be better as well, and to improve them and have them become less of a hindrance to your game. So with saying that, I just mean, don't just go with drills just for the sake of them. Don't just play mindless, meaningless games. Don't just hit a bunch of balls without having a lot of thought going in your head. Think clearly about your tournament results. Think about upcoming tournaments. Think about what things have been working well for you, what things have been working poorly for you, what have been some of your shortcomings in matches, and what are some various strengths you have that can help you win an even higher percentage of points. If you come into a practice with clear intentions and things you want to do better, that's going to make a huge difference to your results down the long run. Another point some people might bring up, they might be like, I really need to work on my second serve, or I really need to work on this shot, but my coach never goes over it in practice. Well, then it's on you to take it on yourself to work on that specifically on your own time. If you're having trouble with your second serve and you're having a lot of double faults, you need to get a basket of tennis balls and practice your second serve till you're not missing it anymore. If you're having trouble at the net, you need to practice approach drills. If you're having trouble changing direction on your forehand and you're not getting a lot of specific forehand practice, you need someone to feed you balls. My point being, you need to find some way to get the necessary training in that you know is important to you in order to get the most out of your performance and to be able to maximize yourself in a match situation. So those are my four main things that I do differently back when I was younger, back when I was competing more, that I think would elevate my performance and elevate my results and just make my tennis experience competing more fulfilling as a whole. I'd not worry about the score during the match so much. I'd try not to compare myself to others and come into the match with preconceptions about how well or how poorly I do. I'd focus on my side of the court. I wouldn't be so concerned about what the opponent does well and poorly, and I'd be thinking more about what do I do well, what kind of points do I want to play, and I'd go into every practice with a clear image in my mind. What is something I want to get better at today? What is something I want to do better on the court that can elevate me as a player and can help me improve in the long run? If you got anything out of my video, if you learned anything, please let me know. Are there any tips that you find really helpful to you, or are there any questions you have on how you can improve, what you can do better, or potential weaknesses or struggling points in your game? Let me know what you think in the video. Keep training hard, and thanks for watching.